A swimming pool is supposed to be one of the safest looking places on Earth. Blue water, sunshine, inflatables, music, vacation energy. And somehow, that is exactly what makes people so unbelievably stupid around it. Because the moment people feel relaxed, they start treating the pool like a stunt stage, a shortcut, a party prop, a proving ground, or a personal audition for natural selection. And that's when Darwin clocks in. Tonight, we're diving into 101 of the dumbest ways people died in a swimming pool. The dives, the dares, the drunken genius, and the backyard decisions that turned just one quick thing into a spectacularly avoidable ending. Fact 1. The roof dive genius. At a backyard party in Florida, one guy looked at a perfectly normal swimming pool and decided the real missing feature was altitude. So he climbed onto the roof with beer confidence and witness support, then dove like the laws of physics were just optional summer guidelines. The pool was built for floating, not for rooftop ambition. He wanted a legendary entrance. Gravity gave him a career-ending review. Fact 2. The motel balcony Olympian. At a budget motel in Arizona, a tourist saw a second-floor balcony overlooking the pool and mistook it for an Olympic platform designed by destiny. He hopped the railing, ignored every warning sign evolution ever invented, and launched himself into the kind of dive that makes strangers instantly stop smiling. A motel pool is for tired families and chlorine, not for a man auditioning to become a cautionary headline. Fact 3. The fence hop moron. In Texas, one late-night party guest decided walking through the gate was for weak people with survival instincts. So he tried to vault the fence and dive in one smooth move, which would have been impressive if his body had agreed to participate. It didn't. He slipped, twisted, and discovered that drunk athleticism is really just falling with branding. He tried to enter like a legend and exited like a liability claim. Fact 4. The tree branch Tarzan. At a Georgia cookout, one cousin noticed a tree branch hanging over the pool and immediately confused landscaping with a stunt package. Fueled by cheap beer and family applause, he grabbed the branch, swung out, and let go at exactly the wrong moment. The pool was nearby. The impact was not. Nothing says holiday memories like a grown man turning yard maintenance into a death wish with bark. Fact 5. The backflip visionary. At a birthday party in Nevada, one guy decided a normal dive would be too humble for the occasion, so he attempted a backflip off the diving board, despite having the coordination of a collapsing lawn chair. He under-rotated, overcommitted, and transformed a fun little flex into a chlorine-scented disaster with witnesses. The diving board did its job perfectly. Unfortunately, it was attached to a man with championship-level stupidity. Fact 6. The above-ground missile. In Ohio, a homeowner with an above-ground pool forgot an important detail. Those things are basically giant plastic optimism containers, not impact-tested stunt arenas. Wanting to entertain friends, he sprinted, leaped, and hit the water with enough bad judgment to turn the whole setup into a backyard engineering failure. Above-ground pools already look temporary. He just helped them leave this world with dignity stripped off first. Fact 7. The float nap. Idiot at a 4th of July pool party in Missouri, one drunk guest decided the deep end was the perfect place for a little nap on an inflatable raft. For a few minutes, it looked peaceful, patriotic even. Then he rolled off, lost orientation, and turned a lazy holiday vibe into a brutal reminder that alcohol and water have never once improved each other. He treated a pool float like a mattress and booze like a life insurance policy. Fact 8. The breath-holding champion. In California, a group of friends turned a swimming pool into the usual male stupidity arena, a breath-holding contest nobody needed and nobody smart would join. One man pushed it too far because quitting in front of an audience felt more embarrassing than basic biological failure. The crowd got suspense. He got Darwin. If your version of masculinity depends on oxygen losing first, the gene pool is already filing paperwork. Fact 9. The extension cord. DJ, at a night pool party in Louisiana, someone decided the music needed to be closer to the water, which is how a speaker, an extension cord, and a body of water ended up sharing one catastrophically stupid plan. It worked right up until electricity remembered what electricity does. The playlist stopped. So did the fun. Water and wiring are not party friends. They're just two different ways of ending the guest list early. Fact 10. The pool light professional. In North Carolina, one pool owner decided to do one quick fix on the underwater pool light without fully shutting anything down, because suburban dads often confuse owning equipment with being licensed by God. He figured it would take 5 minutes and save money. It did take 5 minutes. The consequences, unfortunately, stayed on the property much longer. Nothing says homeowner confidence like performing electrical work in water and calling it efficiency. Fact 11. The wet concrete sprinter. At a hotel pool in Alabama, one man decided the fastest way back to his friends was to sprint barefoot across soaking wet concrete like traction was a communist myth. It was not. His feet left him, his skull met the deck, and the pool area instantly stopped sounding like vacation. Pool decks are not racetracks. They are just common sense with a slip and fall clause. Fact 12. The friendly shove. At a backyard party in Tennessee, a guy gave his friend just a little push toward the pool because apparently adults lose all legal awareness near inflatable flamingos. The friend slipped sideways, hit hard on the edge, and turned one stupid joke into a scene nobody could laugh their way out of. Nothing says summer fun like converting horseplay into a criminal memory. Fact 13. The carry and jump couple. In a Florida apartment complex, one drunk boyfriend decided it would be hilarious to scoop his girlfriend up and leap into the pool together like some Walmart version of romance. He lost balance on the edge, clipped the side, and made the whole gesture look less like love and more like a joint venture in catastrophic judgment. He wanted a movie moment. He got blooper reel homicide energy. Fact 14. The lounge chair launch. At a resort in Nevada, one vacation genius stood on a poolside lounge chair because normal jumping had become too emotionally basic. The chair folded, the body didn't, and the landing happened in the exact wrong order. What had started as poolside bravado ended with screaming, panic, and a staff member having the worst shift of his month. Furniture near a pool is for tanning, not for turning your spine into a question mark. Fact 15. The drunk dare staircase. At a bachelor party in Texas, one man got dared to climb the decorative rocks beside the waterfall and dive from the top because nothing motivates terrible decisions like male friendship and cheap liquor. He slipped before the dive even became official, hit wrong, and taught everyone there that waterfalls are scenic, not instructional. The rocks were decorative, the stupidity was load-bearing. Fact 16. The deep end sleeper. At a suburban pool party in Georgia, a guest got too drunk to function and sat on the edge to cool off for a second. Then he nodded off, tipped forward, and turned a lazy summer evening into an emergency nobody had RSVP'd for. The music stopped, the shouting started, and the host learned that one overserved idiot can ruin an entire zip code's mood. Alcohol turns poolside relaxation into Russian roulette with patio furniture. Fact 17. The human torpedo hug. In California, one man decided the funniest possible party move was to tackle hug his friend and drag both of them into the pool at full speed. Unfortunately, bodies are not inflatable and the edge is not forgiving. What looked like harmless chaos became instant catastrophe the moment momentum introduced itself to concrete. He wanted to create a memory. Mission accomplished. Just not the kind scrapbooks survive. Fact 18. The midnight shortcut. At a condo pool in Arizona, one resident decided walking around the locked gate after hours was too much effort, so he tried climbing over and dropping straight in. He slipped on the top rail, came down wrong, and proved that the phrase, "just a quick shortcut," has probably killed more people than long roads ever did. The gate was there to keep people out. He treated it like a challenge coin from Darwin. Fact 19. The beer in hand entry. At a barbecue in Missouri, one guy insisted on making his pool entrance without spilling his beer, because for some men, dignity is apparently measured in ounces of domestic lager. He stepped in awkwardly, slipped, smashed hard, and still managed to lose the drink anyway. He died defending a beer that would have gone warm in 10 minutes. That's not masculinity. That's brand loyalty with a body count. Fact 20. The one more stunt legend. At a crowded motel pool in Louisiana, one man had already done 3 dumb jumps and survived, which, of course, convinced him he had unlocked some kind of temporary immunity to consequences. So when the crowd yelled for one more, he delivered. Badly. Surviving your first stupid stunt does not make you talented. It just means natural selection took a coffee break and came back angry. Fact 21. The Underwater Shot Challenge. At a crowded pool party in Florida, a group of friends decided the night needed a drinking game that also required breath control, because, apparently, ruining one bodily function at a time felt too slow. One guy kept diving for shot glasses tossed into the deep end until alcohol, bad oxygen math, and a cheering audience teamed up against him. If your game combines liquor and oxygen deprivation, the winner is already a corpse with a fan base. Fact 22. The Night Dive Detective. At a motel pool in New Mexico, one man got the brilliant idea to jump in after dark even though the underwater lights were out and the deep end looked like a black hole with chlorine. He told everyone he knew this pool, which is exactly the kind of sentence stupidity uses before it clocks in. He trusted memory, darkness, and tequila in the same moment. That's not confidence, that's assisted self-deletion. Fact 23. The Railing Slide Inventor. At an apartment complex in Texas, one resident decided the handrail beside the pool steps was not for safety, but for style. So he climbed it and tried to slide down into the water while his friends screamed encouragement like backup dancers for disaster. He missed the line, lost balance, and turned a cheap stunt into an expensive silence. Handrails are there to prevent accidents, not help you freestyle your way into one. Fact 24. The Inflatable Gladiator. At a family pool in Georgia, 2 grown men decided to stand on giant floaties and fight each other into the water, because apparently medieval brain damage needed a summer edition. It was funny, right up until one of them went down wrong, and the party realized inflatable pizza slices are not OSHA-approved combat platforms. Nothing says adulthood like getting taken out by novelty pool furniture in front of children. Fact 25. The Coin Retrieval Hero. At a Las Vegas hotel pool, one tourist started diving for coins thrown in by drunk strangers because the human race will apparently monetize humiliation if given enough neon lighting. After a few rounds of applause, he pushed it too far, too fast, and turned a trashy little crowd game into a full emergency. He died chasing quarters in a pool outside a casino. That is the most aggressively American sentence imaginable. Fact 26. The Decorative Fountain Climber. At a resort in California, one man decided the stone fountain feature next to the pool would make a great launch point, because nothing screams sound judgment like climbing wet fake rocks after midnight. He slipped before the stunt even became impressive, and made the kind of impact that permanently ruins the phrase, vacation energy. Decorative doesn't mean climbable. It means the hotel assumed guests had basic survival instincts. Fact 27. The Pool Toy Race Champion. At a backyard party in Ohio, a group of friends started racing inflatable pool animals across the water while drunk enough to think balance was a personality trait. One guy stood up on his float for extra style points, immediately lost the argument with physics, and turned a giant unicorn into a witness. The float was rated for fun, not for a grown man trying to die like an idiot in pastel colors. Fact 28. The Dive for the Phone Moron. At a condo pool in Arizona, someone dropped a phone into the water, and one guy instantly volunteered to retrieve it like he was being knighted for bravery instead of lured by electronics and stupidity. He dove in badly, in shallow water, for a device that was already ruined anyway. He died trying to save a phone that had better judgment than he did. Fact 29. The Push Me In Couple. At a Nashville pool party, a woman jokingly told her boyfriend to toss her in because playful chaos is cute right up until momentum starts freelancing. He obliged with all the restraint of a forklift. She went sideways instead of clean, and the entire flirtation ended in the kind of silence that kills playlists. Foreplay should not require a liability waiver and an orthopedic specialist. Fact 30. The Last Jump Guy. At a motel pool in Mississippi, one man had already done enough dumb jumps to convince himself he had developed a relationship with consequence. So when everyone started chanting for one last jump before leaving, he gave the crowd exactly what it wanted, and his body exactly what it didn't. Crowds do not make people smarter. They just provide sound effects for bad decisions. Fact 31. The pool speaker strategist. At a backyard party in Florida, one guy decided the music needed to be closer to the water because apparently the real emergency was bass distribution. So he dragged a plugged-in speaker to the pool edge, set it on a damp surface, and created the kind of setup electricians see in nightmares. The vibe improved briefly. Then electricity remembered its core values. Nothing says party planner like turning a playlist into an obituary with Bluetooth. Fact 32. The extension cord diplomat. At a motel pool in Texas, a man ran an extension cord across wet concrete to power decorative lights because he wanted the night swim to feel classy. It did not. It felt classy right up until the water, the cord, and his bargain bin confidence formed a working relationship. Extension cords near a pool are just electrocution with event lighting and a host who says, "Trust me." Fact 33. The pool light professor. In Arizona, a pool owner decided fixing a faulty underwater light was simple enough to do himself, mostly because he had already underestimated electricity and survived a few times. He half shut the system down, reached in like a suburban Poseidon, and discovered that water does not care how many home improvement shows you've watched. He wanted to save on service costs and ended up paying in the least refundable currency available. Fact 34. The pump lid genius. At a house in Georgia, instead of killing the power and reading literally anything useful, he started fiddling with the pressurized system while it was still live. The equipment responded exactly like a machine being disrespected by an amateur. Pool pumps are not confusing because they're evil. They're confusing because they're not designed for overconfident dads with pliers. Fact 35. The heater whisperer. At a country club pool in Louisiana, one maintenance hero decided the heater problem looked easy enough to diagnose while standing in wet shoes beside several terrible choices. He poked around, guessed aggressively, and managed to transform a routine service issue into a high-voltage morality tale. If your troubleshooting method is touch stuff and believe, you are not repairing equipment. You're applying to die theatrically. Fact 36. The DIY filter. Messiah. In California, one man became convinced the pool filter just needed a quick workaround, which is a phrase responsible for more household destruction than termites. He bypassed parts of the system with improvised fittings and false optimism, then proudly restarted everything beside an active pool like he had reinvented engineering. The system was already broken. He just gave it confidence, access to water, and a larger blast radius. Fact 37. The chlorine alchemist. At a suburban pool in Ohio, a homeowner decided he knew enough chemistry to boost his pool treatment by mixing cleaning agents that were never meant to meet outside a crime documentary. The result was less crystal clear water and more panicked coughing, chaos, and a reminder that pool maintenance should not feel like a chemical weapons side quest. When your cleaning plans start sounding like a meth lab with patio furniture, step away. Fact 38. The drain cover idiot. In Nevada, a man noticed the pool drain wasn't working right and removed the cover himself because some people hear specialized equipment and think open invitation. What followed was a brutally efficient lesson in why pool drains are not little underwater mysteries for civilians to solve. He treated a pool drain like a loose cabinet hinge. Darwin treated him like paperwork. Fact 39. The generator by the water guy. After a storm in Mississippi, one homeowner wanted to keep the pool equipment running, so he brought out a portable generator and placed it near the wet deck with the casual confidence of a man who had never once respected fumes, current, or basic geometry. For a while, it looked productive. Then it looked fatal. A generator near a pool is not backup power. It's a redneck boss fight against oxygen and electricity. Fact 40. The One Quick Repair Legend, Part 2. At a North Carolina apartment complex, a resident told everyone he was just doing one quick fix on the pool wiring before people came over, because nothing accelerates stupidity like a social deadline. He rushed, guessed, skipped safety steps, and turned a broken amenity into a full-scale cautionary sermon. There are no quick electrical repairs around water. There are only slow funerals and people who thought they were built different. Fact 41. The pool vacuum cowboy. In Florida, one homeowner decided the automatic pool vacuum was too slow, which is how many men accidentally become the villain in a safety manual. So he improvised a more powerful setup with loose hoses, mismatched fittings, and zero respect for suction. The machine fought back immediately, and the repair ended with panic, damage, and a backyard full of people realizing this man should never be allowed near plumbing again. He wanted more cleaning power.
What he built was hydraulic stupidity with accessories.
Fact 42. The ladder tightener. At a backyard pool in Texas, a dad noticed the pool ladder felt loose and decided tightening it himself would be a 5-minute display of masculine usefulness. Instead, he overdid it, cracked the mount, and turned a simple entry point into a trap with steps. The next use ended exactly the way badly repaired metal usually introduces itself. He tried to make the ladder safer and accidentally upgraded it to betrayal with handrails. Fact 43. The cracked wall optimist. In Arizona, one pool owner spotted a crack in the pool wall and responded the way deeply unserious homeowners always do. Patch first, understand never. He smeared on the wrong sealant, declared it good enough, and ignored the fact that water pressure is basically patience with muscles. The patch failed, the crack spread, and the repair bill ballooned into the kind of number people say twice out loud.
A pool wall crack is not a suggestion. It's water politely announcing its next attack.
Fact 44. The cover collapse engineer. At a house in Georgia, one man tried to fix the pool cover system himself because paying a specialist offended him more than danger did. He adjusted tension, removed support, guessed at the mechanism, and turned a safety system into an expensive trap with timing. What should have been a boring equipment call became a suburban failure event with witnesses. Pool covers are not giant tarps. They are machines waiting patiently for one idiot to freestyle them. Fact 45. The skimmer basket messiah. In California, a homeowner became convinced the skimmer problem was just some debris and a mindset issue. So, he started jamming tools into the housing like he was trying to perform surgery through resentment. He cracked components, messed up the flow, and escalated a tiny maintenance annoyance into a full system headache.
He wanted to remove leaves and instead pruned several $100s off his future.
Fact 46. The homemade cleaning rig. At a suburban pool in Ohio, one guy decided store-bought cleaning tools were a scam, so he built his own pool cleaning contraption out of PVC, tape, and the kind of confidence that usually ends in sirens. It failed exactly the way homemade pressure systems love to fail. Suddenly, loudly, and with enough collateral damage to make frugal feel like a hate crime. If your repair rig looks like a science fair project built by a divorce, back away. Fact 47. The suction hose philosopher. In Nevada, one man tried to clear a suction line blockage himself because apparently he believed pumps are just confused and need a firmer tone. Instead of shutting everything down and calling a pro, he started disconnecting hoses under pressure and leaning into the problem with his entire body. The system answered in the universal language of disaster. Pressurized pool equipment is not stubborn. It's just waiting for one genius to test its range. Fact 48. The I watched a video dad. In Missouri, a father told his family not to worry because he had watched basically the whole video on repairing pool equipment, which is the suburban version of a death certificate signing itself. He opened the housing, skipped steps, reassembled things wrong, and restarted the system like confidence could replace sequence. It could not. Watching a video is not the same as learning a skill. It's just arrogance with buffering. Fact 49. The Equipment Pad Explorer. At a house in Louisiana, one homeowner wandered into the pool equipment pad barefoot and clueless, determined to diagnose that weird noise before dinner. He started touching valves, toggling switches, and opening things that absolutely did not invite him in. By the time the noise stopped, the rest of the yard had gotten much louder. Pool equipment areas are not mystery boxes. They are expensive ways of asking if you respect labels. Fact 50. The filter tank speed run. In North Carolina, a man got impatient waiting for a pressure tank to settle and decided to open it early because some people treat warning labels like personal criticism. The tank disagreed with force. What should have been routine maintenance became a speed run through every stage of preventable suburban humiliation. He wanted to save time. Instead, he turned 5 extra minutes into a permanent argument with consequences. Fact 51. The chlorine cocktail moron. At a suburban pool in Florida, one homeowner decided the water looked a little weird and responded by mixing chlorine with other cleaning chemicals, like he was freelancing as a backyard chemist. The result was not crystal clarity. It was a choking cloud, screaming, and a sudden realization that pool maintenance should not feel like a low-budget gas attack. He wanted cleaner water. What he made was a family evacuation with a chemical aftertaste. Fact 52. The shock treatment prophet. In Texas, a dad announced he was going to shock the pool properly this time, which sounds reassuring until you realize he says that with the same confidence other men reserve for ruining brisket. He dumped in way too much treatment, misread everything, and turned the backyard into a chlorine-scented hostility zone that burned eyes, skin, and whatever trust the family still had left. The pool got shocked. So did everyone else with functioning nerve endings. Fact 53. The pool chemistry influencer. At a rental home in Arizona, one man decided test strips were for sheep and went fully by instinct, vibes, and the color of the water looking kind of okay. It wasn't. He kept adding chemicals in random combinations until the pool stopped resembling recreation and started resembling evidence. The cleanup cost more than doing literally anything correctly at the beginning. He treated water chemistry like seasoning a soup. Unfortunately, the soup could fight back. Fact 54. The bucket mix genius. In Georgia, a homeowner thought premixing pool chemicals in a bucket would save time, which is exactly the sort of sentence investigators love hearing after the fact. The bucket reacted, the area became instantly unwelcoming to lungs, and the backyard transformed into a lesson on why labels are not decorative literature. He wanted efficiency. Instead, he speed ran himself into a chlorine-themed panic event with witnesses. Fact 55. The resort edgewalker. At a resort in Nevada, one man got drunk, shirtless, and spiritually committed to proving he could walk the narrow decorative ledge around the infinity pool because apparently vacation brain replaces judgment with background music. He made it just far enough to feel proud before physics politely interrupted the performance. Infinity pools are named for the view, not for the number of chances they give idiots. Fact 56. The swims up too far genius. At a hotel pool in California, a tourist swam out after dark on a dare, convinced the roped-off section was more of a vibe suggestion than an actual boundary. The lighting was bad, the confidence was loud, and the decision-making was running on vacation tequila. What started as a crowd-pleasing flex ended with lifeguard-level panic in a place that didn't even have lifeguards at that hour. He thought the rope was limiting his freedom. It was actually protecting the gene pool. Fact 57. The vacation flip moron. At a resort in Mexico frequented by Americans who travel with their worst instincts, one guy decided the poolside bar deserved a front flip entrance. He had flip confidence, not flippability, which is a deeply American distinction. He launched, rotated badly, and turned an all-inclusive afternoon into an all-inclusive tragedy, with wet tile and bad math. Pool bars are for bad cocktails, not for men doing gymnastics in honor of divorce. Fact 58. The shallow end philosopher. In Louisiana, a man stared directly at the shallow end, acknowledged it out loud, then still dove head first because apparently recognizing danger and respecting danger felt like two completely separate hobbies. Friends yelled, he ignored them, and the pool delivered the sort of correction only immediate consequences can provide. He saw the shallow end and treated it like a rumor. The pool treated his spine like a lesson plan. Fact 59. The midnight pool sneak. At a closed motel pool in Mississippi, one guest decided the locked gate and dark water simply added excitement, like trespassing was a seasoning.
He climbed in after midnight with no lights, no staff, and just enough alcohol to make every bad choice feel cinematic. It stayed cinematic right up until reality demanded a rewrite. Breaking into a dark pool is just drowning, with a criminal subplot. Fact 60. The one last swim. Idiot. At a family vacation rental in Alabama, one man insisted on one last swim before bed, even though he'd been drinking all evening and moving with the grace of a folding table in a storm. Everyone else was done. He was not. The pool, however, had reached its personal limit. The phrase, "one last swim," has probably ruined more vacations than weather, inflation, and the in-laws combined. Fact 61. The pool bar acrobat. At a resort in Florida, one man got drunk enough to confuse the pool bar counter with a launch platform and decided climbing up there would make him the main event. It did. He slipped on spilled drinks, wet tile, and his own deeply inflated sense of charm, then came down hard in a way that instantly changed the soundtrack from party music to screaming. Pool bars exist to destroy livers, not coordinate full-body exits from reality. Fact 62. The decorative statue mountaineer. At a Las Vegas hotel pool, a tourist saw a fake Roman statue beside the water and decided the obvious next step was climbing it shirtless like Caesar had invented tequila. The stone was wet, the footing was stupid, and the stunt lasted just long enough to become irreversible. Decorative pool statues are there to suggest luxury, not to help a drunk man die like a rejected god. Fact 63. The sign-climbing visionary. At a motel pool in Arizona, a guy decided the giant "no diving" sign would actually make a perfect diving platform if you believed in irony hard enough. He climbed it, posed for his friends, and promptly turned the warning label into a prophecy. Ignoring a safety sign is normal stupidity. Using it as stunt equipment is the deluxe Darwin package. Fact 64. The towel rack legend. At a California resort, one vacation genius grabbed onto the towel rack by the outdoor shower, hoisted himself up, and announced he was about to drop in like a skateboarder who had recently suffered brain dehydration. The rack ripped free, he lost all form, and the pool area got a live demonstration of why hotels bolt things down. If the object says towels, it is probably not designed for airborne commitment issues. Fact 65. The umbrella stand moron. At a beach hotel in South Carolina, one man decided a heavy poolside umbrella stand would be stable enough to stand on for a bigger, funnier jump. It wasn't. It tipped, he folded with it, and the stunt ended with the kind of impact that makes even drunk strangers suddenly rediscover empathy. Umbrella stands are for shade, not for turning your vacation into a chiropractor's group chat. Fact 66. The shortcut through the closed pool. At an apartment complex in Texas, one resident didn't want to walk around the pool fence after dark, so he climbed over and cut through the pool area because normal pathways were apparently too humiliating. Wet tile, low light, and casual arrogance handled the rest. People will risk death to save 14 seconds, then act shocked when the math turns personal. Fact 67. The phone on the other side idiot. At a motel in Louisiana, one guest dropped his phone beyond the pool gate and decided climbing over in flip-flops at night was still somehow the smartest recovery plan. It wasn't smart, and the phone wasn't worth it anyway. He died trying to save a screen-cracked rectangle filled with apps that also told him not to do this. Fact 68. The poolside table diver. At a bachelor weekend in Nevada, one guy climbed onto a cheap plastic patio table and declared he was about to give the crowd one proper send-off before checkout. The table collapsed under the weight of alcohol, ego, and bad engineering assumptions. Plastic pool furniture is not weak. It just wasn't built for a grown man weaponizing brunch decor. Fact 69. The roped-off section genius. At a Caribbean resort, one tourist ignored the roped-off maintenance side of the pool because he thought rules were mainly for families and people with weaker jawlines. He wandered into the wrong area, in the wrong conditions, at exactly the wrong confidence level. When a resort ropes something off, it is not creating mystery. It is trying to keep one shirtless idiot from becoming a lawsuit with tan lines. Fact 70. the "I don't need the steps" guy. At a hotel pool in Alabama, one man refused to use the steps because, apparently, climbing out like a normal mammal felt beneath him. So he tried hauling himself over the slick edge by brute force and vibes, failed spectacularly, and gave the surrounding guests a masterclass in why dignity dies long before the body does. He rejected the safe exit because it looked uncool. Darwin loves when pride starts doing choreography. Fact 71. The pool cover shortcut. At a suburban home in Florida, one man decided walking around the covered pool was an insult to efficiency, so he tried stepping across the cover like it was solid ground and not a wet lie stretched over water. It gave exactly the way common sense expected it to. Pool covers are not sidewalks. They're just traps for people who think inconvenience is a human rights violation. Fact 72. The toy retrieval hero. At a backyard cookout in Georgia, a guy spotted a kid's inflatable toy drifting into the deep end and decided the fastest solution was a dramatic leap from the deck instead of, say, using the net sitting 3 feet away. He misjudged everything that mattered and paid for it instantly. He died rescuing a plastic flamingo that was already handling the water better than he was. Fact 73. The cooler carry genius. At a family party in Texas, one man tried carrying a full cooler across the slick pool deck because taking 2 trips sounded like socialism. The weight threw him off, his footing quit, and the whole thing went down in one loud, very preventable collapse. He tried to save time, beer, and effort. He lost all 3 and added his skeleton to the tab. Fact 74. The wet chair shortcut. At a motel pool in Arizona, a guest didn't want to walk the extra few feet around the lounge chairs, so he stepped on one to cut through the crowded deck like a man who had never once respected furniture. The chair slid, folded, and sent him directly into consequences. Lounge chairs are for sunburn and bad naps, not for parkour by idiots with vacation confidence. Fact 75. The just grab it diver. At a condo pool in California, one resident saw his keys at the bottom of the shallow end and decided this was not a find the net problem, but a headfirst commitment problem. He dove badly for an object that wasn't even going anywhere. He died trying to save car keys from water, while actively failing to save himself from stupidity. Fact 76. The pool fence climber. At an apartment complex in Nevada, one guy locked himself out of the pool area and decided climbing back over the fence would be quicker than calling management, like a person with a pulse and basic pride control. The top rail, wet ground, and bad judgment formed a very effective committee. People will risk their entire future to avoid one mildly awkward phone call. Fact 77. The towel in hand shortcut. At a resort in South Carolina, one man got out of the pool, wrapped himself in a towel, and immediately started jogging barefoot across slick tile, because apparently, the human body becomes immortal the moment it feels dry for 2 seconds. It does not. A wet pool deck does not care whether you're on vacation. It just sees another barefoot resume arriving fast. Fact 78. The pool edge porter. At a birthday party in Louisiana, one guest tried balancing a tray of drinks while walking the narrow pool edge because taking the wider path would have required humility. He lost the tray, his balance, and the argument with basic geometry in one move. He died trying to protect margaritas that would have tasted the same 30 seconds later. Fact 79. The "I can step over that moron." At a hotel pool in Alabama, a tourist saw a maintenance hose stretched across the deck and decided stepping over it mid-conversation was easier than pausing for 1 literal second. One careless stride later, the pool area got a hard reminder that arrogance is clumsy when rushed. He treated a visible obstacle like a personal insult. The ground treated him like an appointment. Fact 80. The lazy exit legend. At a backyard pool in Missouri, one man finished swimming and decided the nearest exit was technically the sidewall, not the ladder, because ladders are apparently for people with less confidence and more longevity. He tried hauling himself out over the slick edge and discovered, too late, why the ladder had been invented in the first place. Human progress created stairs, ladders, and railings. He chose ego and lost the argument. Fact 81. The fireball pool genius. At a mansion party in Florida, one man decided the pool needed something crazier. which is how alcohol, applause, and open flame ended up forming a partnership nobody should have trusted. He lit something poolside, tried turning the jump into a spectacle, and discovered that fire near water does not become safer just because the ending is wet. He wanted a viral moment. He got a Darwin-themed special effect with no sequel rights. Fact 82. The blindfold dive idiot. At a bachelor party in Texas, one guy let his friends blindfold him for a funny pool jump because apparently trust falls had become too educational. The crowd loved it right up until his body started moving in directions the plan had never accounted for. Blindfolding someone near water is not a prank. It's just homicide wearing party wristbands and a fake laugh.
Fact 83. The flamingo joust champion. At a resort in Arizona, two drunk men decided to stand on giant inflatable flamingos and knock each other off with pool noodles while a crowd filmed like Rome had finally found its summer programming. One of them went down wrong, hard, and final. The saddest part is not that he died on a giant pink bird, it's that he died trying to win on one. Fact 84. The camera-ready cannonball. At a hotel pool in California, one guy demanded his friends film the biggest cannonball this place has ever seen, which is exactly the sort of sentence that makes Darwin sit up in bed. He got extra height, extra speed, and extra catastrophe, all for a video nobody ended up wanting to post. He died chasing slow-motion glory in a pool full of strangers and sunscreen.
Fact 85. The bet you won't professional.
At a backyard party in Georgia, a man heard the 4 most dangerous words in the English language. Bet you won't do it, and immediately started acting like dignity now required bodily risk. He climbed, postured, jumped, and gave the crowd exactly what reckless male friendship always eventually produces: consequences with witnesses. Some bets cost $20. This one cost everything, just to avoid looking uncool for 8 seconds. Fact 86. The poolside macho contest. At a vacation rental in Nevada, 2 men got into a stupid little contest about who was more fearless around the pool, which is the sort of debate smart people usually settle by not having it. One stunt escalated into another, the crowd fed it, and the entire thing became a testosterone-powered demolition derby. Masculinity is already exhausting. Near water, it becomes a public health threat with abs.
Fact 87. The TikTok backflip moron.
At a modern-looking Airbnb in Florida, one guest decided the pool was the perfect backdrop for a social media backflip because, apparently, catastrophic spinal decisions now need ring light energy. He had seen enough videos to feel qualified, which is how the internet keeps converting confidence into funerals. Watching a stunt online does not teach you how to do it. It just gives your obituary better lighting. Fact 88. The I'm fine, watch this guy. At a motel pool in Alabama, one man had already slipped once, stumbled twice, and ignored 3 direct warnings, all of which somehow convinced him he was still the most stable man there. So he stood up, announced he was fine, and tried one more stunt for the crowd. The phrase, "I'm fine," has never once improved a pool-related situation. It's just pride doing CPR on terrible judgment. Fact 89. The human diving board. At a house party in Louisiana, a group of friends decided one guy should crouch at the edge while another used his back as a launch point into the pool, because normal diving boards apparently lacked emotional stupidity. The setup was awful, the angle was worse, and the crowd got a perfect view of teamwork becoming evidence. Friendship is beautiful, unless it's being used to invent new ways to die in front of a speaker and a cooler. Fact 90. The final dare of the night. At a crowded pool in Mississippi, one man had already done enough dumb things to earn concern. But concern is not a language drunk crowds speak fluently. When someone yelled for one final dare before everyone left, he agreed like the night owed him a dramatic ending. It did. The crowd went home with a story. He became the reason the story gets told in a lower voice. Fact 91. The roof, the beer, and the pool combo. At a rooftop pool party in Florida, one man combined 3 things that have never once improved each other: height, alcohol, and public encouragement.
He climbed up with a beer still in hand, because apparently committing to the bit mattered more than surviving it. One leap later, the crowd learned that adding altitude to stupidity does not make it impressive. He tried to die cool. Instead, he died as a cautionary tale with tan lines. Fact 92. The pool repair daredevil. At a backyard pool in Texas, a guy was already halfway through a dumb repair on the filter system when his drunk friends convinced him to test it from the water like the human body was a normal diagnostic tool. He leaned in, joked, slipped, and let bad engineering and worse timing finish the sentence. Combining pool repair and pool partying is just multitasking your way into Darwin's Employee of the Month. Fact 93. The Flaming Torch Moron. At a rental house in Arizona, one guest decided a torchlit jump into the pool would look cinematic enough to justify every terrible instinct that led up to it. He underestimated fire, overestimated timing, and treated an open flame like a party accessory instead of a highly motivated chemical reaction. He wanted a dramatic entrance. Turns out, fire also likes attention and has much better follow-through. Fact 94. The Human Ladder Disaster. At a spring break pool in California, a group of friends decided the fastest way to greatness was stacking themselves into a human ladder so one guy could die from the top. That sentence should have been arrested before it was spoken. The stack failed, the launch failed harder, and the crowd got to watch teamwork become a felony against common sense. When your stunt requires multiple idiots cooperating perfectly, the pool is already preparing paperwork. Fact 95. The chair to table to pool. Visionary. At a party in Georgia, one man built himself a little launch sequence using a patio chair, then a table, then the pool, because apparently his brain had been replaced with expired fireworks. The first step wobbled, the second step betrayed him, and the third step became irrelevant. He didn't die because the stunt was hard. He died because he designed it like a cartoon character with a mortgage. Fact 96. The Hold My Phone Genius. At a hotel pool in Nevada, one guy handed his phone to a stranger and announced he was about to do something unforgettable, which was technically the most honest thing he said all night. He backed up, ran, jumped, and turned a poolside flex into a filmed reminder that public confidence is often just private stupidity with better lighting. The phone survived. Social media did not need the content that almost followed. Fact 97. The pool noodle pole vault idiot. At a backyard party in Louisiana, one man somehow looked at a pool noodle and decided what it lacked was athletic ambition. So he used it like a pole vault prop, because alcohol really is just imagination without supervision. The noodle folded immediately, which was more structural integrity than his plan ever had. Pool noodles are for floating badly, not for helping grown men die like rejected circus interns. Fact 98. The slide roof hybrid moron. At a vacation rental in Alabama, a guest climbed from the pool slide up onto the nearby roof because apparently using one unsafe object as a ladder to reach a dumber idea felt efficient. By that point, the crowd had stopped offering logic and switched fully to watching history happen in real time. He treated the pool area like a sandbox for ego. The house, the roof, and the pool all voted no. Fact 99. The triple variable legend. At a crowded summer party in Mississippi, one guy managed to combine darkness, alcohol, and a dare into one final pool stunt, which is basically the holy trinity of self-elimination. He had no clear depth check, no useful balance, and no reason to continue except that people were looking at him. When a stunt needs bad lighting, bad chemistry, and bad friends to work, it isn't bravery. It's assisted deletion with background noise. Fact 100. The final boss of Watch This. At a mansion pool in Florida, one man ended the night the way Darwin stories usually do. Shirtless, overconfident, surrounded by people who should have intervened but instead became an audience. He climbed too high, aimed too loosely, and said the phrase that has buried more common sense than almost anything else in the English language. Watch this. And that's the real poolside killer. Not the water, but the moment a man mistakes attention for invincibility. Fact 101. The perfect Darwin pool finale. At a packed backyard pool party in Texas, one man managed to combine every ingredient in the recipe: alcohol, height, bad lighting, cheering friends, and the completely unearned belief that confidence could negotiate with water. He climbed where he shouldn't, jumped how he shouldn't, and did it all for the ancient male ritual of not looking scared in front of other idiots. The pool didn't kill him. Ego just used water as the delivery system. A swimming pool is supposed to be one of the safest looking places on Earth. Blue water, sunshine, music, vacation energy. A giant rectangle designed to make people feel relaxed. And somehow, that is exactly what makes it so dangerous for idiots. Because these people did not die fighting nature. They died because they looked at a pool and saw a stage, a shortcut, a dare, a flex, or a chance to prove they were still in control. They weren't. That's the real Darwin lesson here. It's not always the scariest place that gets you. Sometimes, it's the place that feels safe enough for your brain to clock out and let your ego take over. And, in the end, that may be the dumbest way to die of all. A pool party. A bad idea. And one last splash,